So this is Devin, and this is Grace. So, to start off, I wanted to ask, what do you guys know about Buddhism? Do you guys know anything? Like, even if it's, like, stereotypes.
Don't you gotta die, like, 7 times to get to heaven or nirvana?
I don't think that's a thing.
I don't know, like a cat with 9 lives. I know that you have to reach nirvana, which is like enlightenment. But you gotta die, like, 7 times. But apparently you have to die 7 times.
Not
like a
the
cat.
thing.
I don't. Do you have to turn into a cat?
Yes.
Okay.
That's actually, it's in this book.
Oh, yeah, they believe in reincarnation, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So you gotta die, like, 7 times.
You gotta,
like, it's 7 different things.
Do you die a little bit more every single time? Sorry.
I'm free to edit this.
Have you ever heard of the Dhammapada?
Sounds made up.
It's actually the book of all of Buddha's teachings.
Didn't you have to read it for class?
I did. And I had to write reflections on it. Yes.
I know one more thing.
Yes.
The Dalai Lama is like the Pope of Buddhism.
So now we're going to read from the Dhammapada, which you guys have copies of. We're going to start off with verse 1, which is called Twin Verses. Do either of you want to read, or I can read? It doesn't matter.
You can read.
Oh, thanks. Okay. Okay, to ask, why do you think this is called Twin Verses?
That's a great question.
If you don't know.
Valid
There's no correct answer.
Valid question.
That's a really good one. You should be proud of yourself.
Maybe, probably not. But maybe because it talks about like hatred, which is like the ungrateful twin to like love.
Okay. I mean, you're on the right track. Yeah. I'm gonna say there's no right answer. So.
Mine's probably not gonna make any sense, but here we go. Could it be called Twin Verses because it's like talking about how people who are, for example, selfish, therefore they're suffering, therefore they can't overcome that suffering. Like it talks about how if you are suffering in this life, you can't like obtain that like happiness, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it like a domino effect. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah, you're making sense.
Okay.
With verse 19, where it talks about reciting many scriptures, do you think that is something where it says those who recite many scriptures but fail to practice their own teachings are like a cow herd counting others' cows? They do not share in the joys of spiritual life. Do you think that's something that could be applied today?
Yes.
Yeah.
With a lot of things.
With a lot of things. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to page 115, verse 3.
Got him. Mine.
I can read this one if you want.
Okay. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I don't know how to read. Okay. As an archer aims an arrow, the wise aim their restless thoughts. Hard to aim, hard to restrain. As a fish hooked and left on the sand thrashes about in agony, the mind being trained in meditation trembles all over, desperate to escape the hand of Mara. Hard it is to train the mind, which goes where it likes and does what it wants. But a trained mind brings health and happiness. The wise can direct their thoughts, subtle and elusive, wherever they choose. A trained mind brings health and happiness. Those who can direct thoughts, which are unsubstantial and wander so aimlessly, are freed from the bonds of Mara. They are not wise whose thoughts are not steady and minds not serene, who do not know Dharma, the law of life. They are wise whose thoughts are steady and minds serene, unaffected by good and bad. They are awake and free from fear. Remember, this body is like a fragile clay pot. Make your mind a fortress and conquer Mara with the weapon of wisdom. Guard your conquest always. Remember that this body will soon lie on the earth without life, without value, useless as a burned log. More than those who hate you, more than all your enemies, an undisciplined mind is greater harm. More than your mother, more than your father, more than all your family, a well-disciplined mind does greater good.
Thank you, Grace. Was there anything that like stood out to you? Any verses you liked?
I liked 40. Remember, this body is like a fragile clay pot. Make your mind a fortress. And conquer Mara with a weapon of wisdom. Guard your conquest always.
I like that one too.
I like that one too.
Well, it's mine.
No one else can have it. It says that verse is being removed from dharmas everywhere.
Yep.
Do you think that Buddhists put such a emphasis on the mind rather than like your body?
I don't know Buddhism that well, but I think it sounds like that the mind is more eternal.
I would say the body's impermanent. They put a real emphasis on that everything's like impermanent except for your mind.
Right.
Especially when you look at 41, like when it says, remember that this body will soon lie in the earth without life, without value. They don't say the mind, you know, they just say the body. So.
That's a good point. I sure read that. And you're like, made a point.
We're a team.
Are we?
Yeah.
Go team. Yeah, it's called Thousands. It's the very last page. You want me to read again?
I'll read this time.
Oh, Devin. Take an initiative.
Oh, I regret this. Better than a speech of 1,000 vain words and one thoughtful word which brings peace to the mind. Better than a poem of 1,000 vain verses is one thoughtful line which brings peace to the mind. Better than 100 poems of vain stanzas is one word of the Dharma that brings peace to the mind. One who conquers himself is greater than another who conquers 1,000 times of 1,000 men on the battlefield. Be victorious over yourself and not over others. When you attain victory over yourself, not even the gods can turn it into defeat. Better than performing 1,000 rituals month by month for 100 years is a moment homage to one living in wisdom. Better than tending a sacrificial fire in the forest for 1,000 years is a moment's homage to one living in wisdom. Making gifts and offerings for a whole year to earn merit is not worth a quarter of the honor paid to the wise. To those who honor the wise and follow them, 4 gifts will come in increasing measure: health, happiness, beauty, and long life. Better to live in virtue and wisdom for one day than to live 100 years with an evil and undisciplined mind. Better to live in goodness and wisdom for one day than to lead an ignorant and undisciplined life for 100 years. Better to live in strength and wisdom for one day than to lead a weak and idle life for 100 years. Better to live in freedom and wisdom for one day than to lead a conditioned life of bondage for 100 years. One day's glimpse of the deathless state is better than 100 years of life without it. One day's glimpse of Dharma is better than 100 years of life without it.
Yeah. It's so with this one they talk about quality rather than quantity. Do you like agree with that, like that it would be better to live like one day what does it say? Better to live in goodness and wisdom for one day than to lead an ignorant and undisciplined life for 100 years.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like we want to just live for one day, but you know.
Oh, I do.
That was all the time.
You'll be reincarnated and then you'll live another one.
Remember there's like 7 lives, Devin?
Because you're a cat.
Because you're a cat.
Is there any verse that stands out to you in this, or that you really liked?
I really liked on page 136, number 108, it says, making gifts and offerings for a whole year to earn merit is not worth a quarter of the honor paid to the wise. I really like that one because I think that something like that can, like a lot of this can still be applied to modern times, because to me, I read it as like, don't, be a giving person just for the sake of being labeled a giving person. Do it out of the kindness of your heart, and I think that really speaks to me, because that's, I don't know, I really hate it when people do that. It means so much less, and it's really vain. So.
Cool. Thank you.
I really liked the be victorious over yourself and not over others. When you attain victory over yourself, not even the gods can turn it into defeat.
What do you think they mean by that?
That's some self-love right there.
Heck yeah.
when it says victory over yourself, do you think it means like over your own doubts or over your like own desires?
I think it's really just like figuring yourself out, like understanding who you are, what you want, and even like your own flaws.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Okay, so that's all we're gonna do with the Dhammapada, and now we're gonna do something a little different. It's not scary.
I can't feel my toes.
You guys are going to be coloring mandalas, but you're going to do it in complete silence until you're done.
Yes, don't talk, Grace. You can move over there.
Okay, we're gonna be quiet now. Starting now. Okay, so we just colored in complete silence. How was that? Was it relaxing or kind of stressful because you were like worried about making noise?
It was relaxing at first, and then everyone finished, and I was filled with anxiety. Like, I had the same level of anxiety as when I was, like, running through an airport, and I almost, like, missed my plane. Like, that's the level of anxiety I got. Sorry. My hand just hurts, so.
Same. Okay, and so have you guys learned anything from this? Has it been helpful, or did it just waste your Tuesday morning, your scholar day?
No, it was interesting. I liked it. Didn't know babies could be born talking and walking.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. And look
That's
at
pretty
him.
cool, yeah.
Look at him go.
And I don't know if the video mentioned it, but when he took steps, lotus flowers would blossom wherever his feet touched.
I was wondering what the plates were in the video.
The plates.
Oh, like they were just like circles.
I didn't know about the Four Noble Truths, and I thought that was really interesting.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for doing this. You can wave bye if you want. No? Okay.
Later, my dude.
Wait, do you have colored pencils?
I do have colored
Colored
pencils.
pencils. I want crayons.
Sorry, I have a
Je veux la fille dans la femme.
Okay, you need to
Don't
put the
curse in
Swedish
Russian
away.
during my Buddhist thing.
Swedish. Dummkopf.
Du bist eine Dummkopf.
Du bist eine Dummkopf.
Nein.
Ich bin nicht.
You need to die
I have
once and then
50
come
p.
back 6 more times because you're like here.